It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines, as we head towards the great sports weekend. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host who broadcasts from left field, John Riley. We welcome you to our Thursday podcast. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center's 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. If you've got projects for the fall into the winter for 2025 around the home and the business, you need these people. DIXIELINE Lumber's got the materials. DIXIELINE Lumber will be your creative consultant. They'd be glad to help you think DIXIELINE Lumber. John Riley and I both got the memo that we had to show up because we're talking baseball playoffs heading into the World Series, and we both had to pay off bets. So therefore, I have to wear Dodger gear. He has to wear Padre colors. And you people watching on live stream, just freaking deal with it, would you? Hey, listen, we got a lot to cover, going a lot of different directions. A couple of business items before we get started. This podcast, when we are done putting topics on the table, you take over the podcast. We call this Fans Forum. It's kind of like get off your ass and get on the phone when we're doing sports talk radio. But we want you to join us on the podcast. John, just explain to the people on live stream how the Fans Forum works and how easy it is to get into the mix.
I'm still loving looking at you in a Dodger sweatshirt. It's fantastic. This is fantastic. So, yeah, if you got a comment or question for Lee Hacksaw Hamilton wearing his Dodger sweatshirt, today is your day. Leave your comment in YouTube, Facebook, or X in the live chat, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
A couple of other items. If you like sports, when we're done with this award-winning podcast, we want you to check my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. It's all written content every day. It's there every morning for you. Make it part of your first cup of coffee routine. If you like sports, because I write about it, because I cover it all, check the website. Also, when you go to the website, on the homepage, there's a big orange box right at the front of the homepage. Fill that out, get on the email list, because we send bonus stuff out to all of the people who are part of Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You're also on social media. Show me your driver's license. I know you're on social media. So am I. I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team on X. Very simple. Just type in my handle at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button because I put a lot of stuff up on my Twitter account, including the very popular Hacksaw mini poll. So do that. And of course, we want you to share. Tell everybody what we're doing on this podcast. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a 5-star rating because that really helps us. And we want you to subscribe because every time you subscribe to the YouTube channel, you will get notifications every time we put something up on the YouTube channel, which is a fair amount of time during the course of the week. So those are all the business items. We got a lot to talk about. Wow, we got a lot to talk about. John, pick a topic. You're the one that did the format. You tell the people on live stream the order of the topics on the table.
Well, we're going to start with talking about the Padres payroll, and you're going to kick it off in a Dodgers jersey.
Well, I'm paying off a bet. Okay, here's the deal. The Padres season is over. It ended really badly, though it was a great summer of baseball. We should recall and remember that. But everybody that I've spoken to, John, just has an ache in their heart because the general consensus is the Padres should still be playing this week in the National Championship Series. And instead, the Padres are like you and me watching the playoffs on TV. Now, as we move into the Padre offseason, huge issue as it relates to the Padre payroll. This is a full screen look of the decisions the Padres have to make, and this is not going to be easy. I'll walk you through this. Their payroll for 2024, the just completed season, was about $169 million. Obviously, they worked really hard to cut payroll to get beneath the luxury tax. If they were to bring back everybody on the roster who would do pay raises, in addition to the guys who have the multi-year contracts, their payroll would bust to $231 million. I just don't see that happening. So here's the list of guys that they got to make decisions on. Now, we know Luis Arraez won the National League batting title again at 318. We also know that there are limitations to him. He's not great with the glove. He's kind of a man without a position, doesn't run the bases very well, does not hit for any power whatsoever. He made $8 million last year. Miami paid the entire contract last year. The Padres take on the entire contract this year. And with arbitration, he could go as much to $14 million. So the burning question for the Padres, despite the fact this guy can swing the stick, despite the fact this guy's kind of undisciplined, despite the fact this guy is limited in other facets of his game, are you willing to pay somebody $14 million to be a single sitter? Big issue. Second name is Dylan Cease. Arbitration eligible, comes from the White Sox. They own his rights for another year. His payday, according to the arbitration figures, probably is going to be $13 million. Give it to him. Michael King. He became Greg Maddux. He evolved into almost an ace of the staff. He's arbitration eligible. Because it's only the second time he'd be arbitration eligible, it probably bumps to $10 million at least. The sticky wicket is Profar. You got him on a value contract at $1.5 million plus bonuses. Had the 280 season. However, there were two really crummy months in that 280 season. He tailed off after July, didn't hit much in the postseason, and he just hired Scott Boras. Are you going to pay him and bump him from 1.5 to 10 mil? Then there's the kid. He's not going to play next year on a rookie salary. That rookie salary as a second-year major leaguer would be about $900,000. I think Merrill is going to probably get maybe $5 million, maybe tops $8 million. Maybe they try to do a multi-year contract with him, but there's a big pay raise there. Higgy, the home run hitter. What a gem he turned out to be. Arbitration eligible, journeyman guy. He's got to get a pay bump at least up to $5 million. Tanner Scott could be a closer. Could be the right setup guy. Not going to come cheap. They're going to have to try to sign him maybe to a multi-year deal to keep Tanner Scott from going out into the open market, because if he becomes a free agent, I think he's gone. And then they got the bench bunch, Solano, Peralta. They'd get pay bumps, not mega money, but they'd get pay bumps just based on the contribution this past season. So you could sales pitch the guy wearing the Dodger hoodie or the guy wearing the Padre hoodie and say, keep the team together. But the problem is the cost factor. And I just don't think ownership is going to allow the Padres to push the payroll way over the $200 million mark, shove it all the way up to $231 million is what it would be if you paid all those guys what most people in baseball tend to think they are due. There's some tough decisions that have to be made, starting with the guy, the leadoff hitter who leads off our chart right there. John Riley, you're a big man on economics. Give me an opinion.
Yeah, they got a crisis on their hands here, assuming that the maybe the maximum payroll they want to go after is around the same as last year, because this doesn't fit in the budget. But you got 47,000 people showing up at Petco. Hopefully they could cover it all. When you go down the list, I'm with you. Arraez, I love him. I love him on our team, but he is sort of positionless. You know, if he were the permanent DH, I'd be okay with that if we had a good hitting first baseman, second baseman. Cease, I think, like you said, just sign him. King is due. Profar is the one that I think the Padres may not re-sign, but Profar really wants to be here, and San Diego loves Profar, so you hope that relationship doesn't break apart.
Yeah, but you got to call area code 714 and deal with Scott Boras.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I remember Ha-Seong Kim hired Boras, but Profar too?
Yes.
Wow.
What are you doing with Kim?
Oh, you have to let him go. I mean, it's sad to say, but you got already too many infielders as it is, and I think you just let Bogarts play short, or maybe at some point, maybe Jackson Merrill. Maybe he comes in, and then they got DeVries like down in single A ball.
Yeah, but that's way down the road.
Down the road, yeah. So I think you move on from Ha-Seong Kim. You thank him for his time here. We appreciated him, but I think you turn the page.
There's a realistic thing you need to pay attention to. He did not have a great first year at the plate.
No, he didn't.
Played really well defensively. Mm-hmm. Had the great complete second year. Third year didn't hit. and then he got hurt, and he's not going to be back. Torn labrum surgery till probably June.
Ooh.
So I don't know that I'd even pick up the $8 million option in his contract. And with Scott Boras repping him, he's gonna take the $2 million buyout, go onto the open market, and see what he can get somewhere else. So you got a question on Profar, you got a question on Kim, and you're kind of weaving back and forth on ARRAEZ.
Yeah, but I still think you keep ARRAEZ. I just think you just got to find a spot for him.
At $14.8 million as a single sitter?
Yes. Because the dude makes a difference. You know, he's getting on base all the time. He's putting the ball in play, although they didn't do that in the last 2.5 games of the playoffs. But I think you stick with ARRAEZ.
And what do you do about Tanner Scott?
He's gone. I mean, the great pitcher, hella good. You got to let him go, you know, and then Peralta and Solano, you probably let those guys go. The Padres are going to have to make some tough spots. They can't really add new guys. They're going to have to make a decision on the guys that they have, who they're going to keep.
Yeah, tough call. It's not going to be the same team on opening day next year just because of the budgetary constraints. And I don't think that budget is going to $200 million, much less $231 million if you had re-signed everybody that we had put up on the board at the price baseball people are saying. So real tough call. So what question should we ask Padre fan who will jump on board here in Fans Forum? Should we ask him, which guy are you willing to let go? I mean, are you willing to let ARRAEZ go? Are you willing to let Kim walk? Are you willing to say goodbye to Tanner Scott, despite all the unique things he did out of the bullpen as a setup guy? So maybe that should be our Fans Forum question for Padre fan. Who you keep and who you going to let go?
Yeah, those are good questions. The other one I have is if you let go of Profar, where would he land and how much would he get paid? Because it didn't work out last time in Colorado. So the Padres might have an opportunity to sign him on the cheap again.
Okay, Fans Forum and chat boxes open. You're a Padre fan. Jump on board. Oh, by the way, fashion critics, if you have something to say about this hoodie or that hoodie, that's okay. Fashion critics are allowed. Doesn't guarantee you'll get your comment on the air, but so be it. Tough call on the Padres. You know, World Series is just around the corner. Padres offseason emotionally is just about to begin. So, John, we go from that to the next baseball topic here. Late breaking stories.
Yeah, here we go. Some White Sox, Rays, and even our local teams.
Let's talk about the storyline. White Sox. Jerry Reinsdorf, according to the Chicago Tribune, is entertaining offers to sell majority control of the White Sox. The team that lost 101 games 2 years ago and lost a record 121 this year, and the fans are probably cheering on the south side of Chicago. You're not going to believe who's interested in the White Sox. The group is known as Smoke 34. That's their corporate name.
Smoke 34.
The group is headed by legendary Major League pitcher Dave Stewart.
Dave Stewart.
Dave Stewart is
Really?
part of a Nashville consortium. He's the point man, the front man, the baseball identity man, going to make a bid on the White Sox. Now, Dave Stewart has also thrown his support behind getting a Major League expansion team for Nashville. He's been front and center with that group, but now Smoke has already talked to Jerry Reinsdorf.
Interesting.
That would be fascinating. He's got the money people behind him. Dave Stewart's got a great, quote, baseball reputation as a player and as a former agent, and now as a business entrepreneur.
And a GM.
So we'll keep that story on your front and center. Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Sports Authority, which is involved with the Suncoast Dome Tropicana Field, has said the stadium is going to have to be shut down for at least 6 months if they're going to be able to make repairs to the infrastructure and the all-new tiling on the artificial roof. The Rays don't have a place to play on opening day. 6-month construction project. That's item one. Second item, who's going to pay the $51 million to replace all the panels destroyed by the hurricane at Tropicana Field's roof? Third question, where are they going to go play? They have sent their baseball people to Port Charlotte, which is 90 miles south of Tampa. That's their spring training headquarters. And they're looking at the Port Charlotte Spring Training Stadium, but it's not big enough and it's not major league ready. And the union gets input as to where we're going to allow our players to go play. That's an issue. They've also made contact across the state and up the coast to Orlando, talking about playing in their minor league stadium. There's also been ideas floated. Maybe they split games early in the season that used to be at Tampa Bay, and they play some in Nashville and maybe some in Portland. In other words, they become a road team for maybe 2 months of the season while the renovations and the repair continue at Tropicana Field. So they're in a world of hurt. There's also been an idea that's been floated. Let them move home games early and split it at Marlins Stadium with the Miami Marlins. I'm not sure the Marlins want that. I'm not sure who the hell goes see the Rays, much less the Marlins, because baseball support has really been lagging in the Sunshine State. So Tampa's got huge problems. I mean, it's not even November 1st, but this looks like the game plan that they're going to have to go find a place to play for at least the first 2 months of the season, if not longer than that. And then the other thing from the Tampa perspective, if you're going to tear that stadium down within 2 years when the Rays move to the other side of the bridge to play in St. Petersburg in a shiny new stadium, why would you spend $51 million right now in Tampa to repair the roof if you're going to tear the sucker down in 2 years? So it's quite an issue. Third topic, Dodgers. Dodgers-Padres. That last playoff game, all-time record TV viewership in Japan.
Okay, I believe that.
The game was at 11 a.m. Tokyo time on the next morning, even though it was here on the West Coast. 12.8 million viewers in Japan.
Really?
All-time record for any major league telecast. Why? Showtime. Why? Yamamoto versus Yu Darvish.
Yeah.
It was the numbers are staggering. Prior to that game, the highest viewership ever for a Major League Baseball game happened to be an Ohtani appearance, 8.9 million. But this was 12.9 million the next day in Tokyo.
Wow.
Just amazing. And then the other item as it relates to the Dodgers, big debate. Dave Roberts not want to talk about it. The analytics guy should consider it. You got Ohtani batting .000 with nobody on base in the playoffs. He's 0 for 22. With men on base, he's 7 for 9 in the playoffs, 778.
Wow.
Begs the question, and Dave Roberts did not want to answer it today, didn't want to answer it last night. Why is Ohtani batting leadoff? I know Dave Roberts is of the theory, I want him to get 5 at-bats every game. But if he's not hitting as a leadoff guy when there's nobody on base, and he's hitting the hell out of the ball when men are on base, why not drop him in the lineup? Drop him to 3. Drop him to 4. Because you got to believe that if you put Will Smith in front of him or Mookie as a leadoff guy, Freeman in front of him, those guys are going to get on, and then he's swinging the stick with men on base where he's hitting 778 in postseason with guys on base. So that's an interesting discussion point as it relates to the Dodgers. And to the Padres. Burning question in the offseason, after we sort out the roster that we've already proposed, what do you do with ARRAEZ? Leadoff hitter? Nickel and dime hits? Is he better positioned somewhere else? Who would be your leadoff hitter if you don't want to rise swinging at everything at the top of the batting order? Would it be Jackson Merrill as a legitimate leadoff hitter? What direction would you go if it's not ARRAEZ and not Kim, if Kim is indeed gone from here? Interesting questions. So, John, you got the Blight Sox, you got the homeless Rays, you got all things Dodger baseball, and you got the Friars. The floor is yours.
Oh, my God. There's a ton there. Okay, so White Sox, I'm pleased that there's potentially new ownership. Dave Stewart, he's a local here. In fact, my son played Little League with his son when they were 10 years old, and Dave Stewart would show up at the field. And I think the team mom's still hound dogging him for money. But at any rate, Dave Stewart, local guy, loved to see him have success. And it was interesting how he wanted to be an assistant GM with the Padres, and they kind of pigeonholed him to be the pitching coach because he wanted to be in management. And darn it, he's getting in management. That's good. The Rays, I don't know what to say. I mean, they got to find a new stadium. I'd be surprised if Orlando or Port Charlotte, how those local stadiums did, because those Hurricanes should whip the hell out of those places.
Well, none of those were damaged. But at the end of the day, You're not in Tampa, St. Pete. Port Charlotte's 90 miles south. That's their spring training headquarters. And by the way, now granted, this would be in the spring. It would not be in the heat of July or August, we don't think, unless they don't repair Tropicana Field. But, I don't think the Union wants their guys playing night baseball in Port Charlotte in June, July, August, which is bloody hot and humid. And by the way, there's a hell of a lot of rain down there. So, the Rays got a real issue.
Hey, here's an idea. Remember, was it last year they had a memorial game for the Negro Leagues in Birmingham?
Yes.
I wonder if they could play there.
Hot and humid. You had the same set of circumstances in Birmingham. You're talking about Ricketts. I think it was Ricketts Field.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I don't think so. The wild name that was floated is to me, but I don't understand how this is possible. Montreal. Olympic Stadium is still there, but it's still a cement old edifice. It hasn't had baseball since the Expos vacated more than a decade ago. So the Rays got a problem. And, you may say, well, Hacksaw, it's not even November 1st. Well, pal, spring training will be around the corner before you know it. And they got to put all these things in place. So, boy, they got some tough calls there. What are you doing with Ohtani and the batting order? And what are you doing with the Padre lineup card, John?
Okay, well, for the Padres, to me, ARRAEZ ideally is a number 2 hitter. Because I remember back in the 80s, remember the Padres had Alan Wiggins 1 and Gwynn 2, and Gwynn was the contact guys like ARRAEZ is. So I think if you can find Merrill, you made a suggestion as a leadoff, that's a good choice. There might be someone else, but ARRAEZ doesn't take enough walks to be a legitimate leadoff, in my opinion.
Doesn't take any walks.
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of the problem.
Granted, he doesn't strike out, but he swings at everything in all the area codes.
Yeah, he does, and I think that's okay as a number 2 hitter. So, I that's what I do with ARRAEZ. But as far as the Dodgers and Ohtani, we got killed. Padres got killed when the guys at the end of the order, were getting on base all the time, and then Shohei came up and knocked them all in. So I think Dave Roberts has the right idea. And then he bats 5 times. But you said, put Will Smith in front of him. Last I checked, Will Smith was hitting under 100.
But he has been a leadoff hitter in the prior, and he's also got some power. Now, I don't know if Will Smith is the right guy. Maybe it's Mookie Betts. But then you got to have somebody batting second. You probably want Freeman hitting 3, and then you got Ohtani, because guy's going to be on base in front of him, Ohtani at 4. But boy, Dave Roberts is just, I hate to use the word stubborn, maybe more like your word I use for you, obstinate. He doesn't want to have this discussion, but why not? Your guy is batting .000, 0 for 22, which to me is stunning.
Stunning, yeah, but they're still winning, So the and plus you like to have the lefty righty thing kind of going on, and I think you want to separate Ohtani and Freeman with at least one right-hander in the middle. So yeah, it's kind of what do they say? You're spoiled with riches. Any way you go with Ohtani, you're going to be doing all right. Okay, you're a baseball fan. Fans Forum chat box is open. Your comments on the Blight Sox, the homeless Rays. Who wants to talk Dodgers, like my hoodie? Who want to talk Padres, or like him in brown and gold? Feel free to pile in, pile on. I'm sure somebody's got some opinions, including the fashion critics who always reach out to us when the podcast is done. So we go from that. Next topic on the table, John. Hey, we're going to talk about the NFL here. Here we go. Big games this week. Oh, my goodness. This is must-see TV weekend ahead. There's some really good games in the National Football League. The Chargers are all excited because Harbaugh's got his health thing solved. Justin Herbert threw for a ton of yards. They're 3-3. They go to Arizona. What I worry about is this looks like an ambush in the making in the Valley of the Sun to play the Arizona Cardinals. They're 3-3. Who have you beaten? Charger fan, who have you beaten? Raiders, Carolina, which still has an NFL team, I think, and Denver in the throes of painful rebuild. Those are your 3 wins. And you got whacked by the other teams that you played. So who have you won against that is quality? They go to Arizona, and this is not going to be easy. Arizona, get this, even though they're 2-4, the Cardinals beat the Rams when the Rams were healthy. You forgot amnesia on your point. Arizona beat San Francisco. Yeah, they did. Arizona lost by 6, 2 field goals to Buffalo. Arizona lost by 7 to Baltimore. Arizona is more dangerous than I think anybody's paying attention to.
And obviously they got Kyler Murray, and they got the 1,000-yard running back, James Conner. They hope to be able to get Marvin Harrison back off the concussion list by tomorrow's practice. They just activated one of their other wide receivers have been hurt. Suddenly, they're kind of dangerous with the skill positions offensively. One other sidebar note. Now, he can't play this weekend if they do this trade, but the rumor is the general manager of the Chargers, Joe Ortiz, has called the Jets. I'll make a conditional trade. You send me Mike Williams. We'll take on what's left in that one-year contract. We'll give you a conditional draft pick based on how much he plays. Mike Williams is on the outside looking in after the Jets' acquisition of Davante Adams. That's not going to happen in time for the game on Sunday. By Monday, Chargers might have Mike Williams back. You know, he caught 310 passes, 31 touchdowns for the Bolts, playing for Justin Herbert, and left obviously as a free agent because the price tag was high, but he was coming off knee surgery, and he and Aaron Rodgers had not been on the same page at all. Rodgers kind of dinged him yesterday when the topic came up to Aaron Rodgers. You got all these guys to throw to, and he made a comment about Mike Williams. Somebody asked him about Mike Williams, and the ex-Charger, and he said, the guy ran the wrong route each of the last two games at the end of the game and wound up being an interception. In essence, is a vote of no confidence, Aaron Rodgers, towards Mike Williams. So anyhow, that's the storyline with the Chargers as they get ready to play Arizona. Rams, Raiders. This is a desperation game. Rams are 1-4. Silver and Bleak are 2-4. I guess the burning question now for the Raiders, is there life after Davante Adams? I mean, think about this whole situation. You got the volatile mouth of Antonio Pierce. And yesterday, a statement came out of his mouth. Davante Adams, gone. Next man up. I look at the roster. Who the hell's the next man? You weren't winning when you had Davante Adams, and now Adams is gone, and all you got was the third-round draft pick. And their defensive front has been destroyed by injuries. Max Crosby's back. He, of course, had a bruised knee. They lost Christian Wilkins, who I thought was the most critical acquisition at defensive tackle. And both their right defensive ends, knee surgery, gone for the year. They're a mess. Today, Rams, Cooper Kupp went through his first full run practice. Of course, he's had a knee injury. He's been out since preseason camp. We'll see if he's ready to play on the weekend. Of course, there is no Puka Nacua. Here's the other thing that's stunning. You know, life after Aaron Donald with the Rams. Their legendary Pro Bowl defensive tackle retired, and then they traded their starting linebacker, Ernest Jones. The Rams are giving up 373 yards a game on defense.
Wow.
Just getting hammered. Running backs are averaging 4.8 yards per rush. Opposing wide receivers, 13 yards per catch.
Wow.
And the Rams defense has already given up 17 touchdowns in 5 games this season. The Rams are not good. So you got Rams versus the Raiders desperation game. Green Bay, Houston. Oh, that's going to be a doozy. Texans are averaging 375 yards per game. C.J. Stroud has thrown 10 touchdown passes already this season. The Bengal refugee running back Joe Mixon is averaging 5.3 yards per carry. Jordan Love's got 12 touchdowns already for the Packers, and he's not played the whole season because of the knee injury. You got Josh Jacobs, and their wideouts in Green Bay are averaging 13 yards per catch. Houston, Green Bay, must-see TV. NFC North, that is Detroit that goes to play at Minnesota. I'll tell you, it's going to be tough for the Lions, though. They lost Aiden Hutchinson with a badly broken leg, the defensive end. Then they lost his running mate inside, the defensive tackle, with a season-ending injury. It's weird. Detroit has been known for the last 3 years in this rebuild for their defense. We're going to punch you in the mouth. Jared Goff in the offense, and I wasn't aware of this till I did some research last night. They're averaging 416 yards a game. Detroit is on offense. That's not been the way they've played. So they're really good. They're really dangerous. And Sam Darnold at home, wow. Vikes are 5-0. Darnold's got a 103 quarterback rating, 11 touchdown passes this season. Now, Vikings are going on the road. Vikings play 4 of their next 6 on the road after this weekend's game. So Detroit, Minnesota. I think you want to probably watch that. Kansas City, San Francisco. Interesting question here. Chiefs record 5-0. Ready for this? Patrick Mahomes this season has thrown only 6 touchdowns and has thrown 6 interceptions. The Chiefs are not what they used to be offensively, of course, because of all the injuries at wide receiver. And they've kind of made it a tight end offense. Now, granted, they're averaging 354 yards per game, but they're not scoring a ton of points. It's become a tight end offense, Kansas City. Frisco, Brock Purdy, over 1,600 yards passing, got 9 touchdowns already. Mr. Irrelevance got a quarterback rating of 100 on the nose. I mean, he is playing really well, and they're doing all this without Christian McCaffrey. Your running backs are averaging 5 per carry. Wide receivers are averaging 13 yards per catch. And it's all because Purdy is just making a ton of plays. So Kansas City, Frisco is worth watching. And then you got Baltimore, Tampa Bay, the other must-see game. You know, we need 3 TVs in here
Yeah, we
Sunday.
do. Yeah, we do.
Let's just get that done, would you?
All right.
Baltimore, Tampa Bay. They're going to break the scoreboard. Baltimore's averaging. Baltimore, known for its defense. Baltimore, run the football, play defense.
Mhm.
Baltimore's averaging 453 yards a game.
Wow.
Lamar Jackson, 67% completion. He's got a 108 quarterback rating, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks. Derrick Henry's averaging almost 6 yards per carry. So Baltimore is just rolling. But then Tampa has got Baker Mayfield. I bet you didn't know, because I didn't know. Mayfield's thrown 15 touchdown passes already this season. Mayfield's got a 109 quarterback rating. He's become a cult figure on the Sun Coast. And his 2 receivers, Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, between them got 68 catches and 10 touchdown catches already, just 5-6 games into the season. So, man, there's some great games. I'll be here at 6 a.m. to watch it with you starting on Sunday. It's cool. John, pick a game you want to talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, you talked about the Arizona Cardinals, and that's an interesting team to watch, because how long has it been since Kyler Murray came out of college football? I mean, he was the Heisman Trophy winner.
3 or 4 years.
3 or 4.
He's had injuries. He was hurt a lot last year. Running quarterbacks get dinged. He got dinged, but he's back healthy. And then they went out and they got Marvin Harrison, and they got the heavy-duty running back. And they've got a couple of the young wide receivers now coming off. It just got activated. So, and to me, they're dangerous. You look at Arizona, say, crap season. Well, not quite. They pulled off 2 surprise wins, and 2 of the other big boys they played, they lost by a touchdown or less.
Yeah, that's another franchise that rarely ever wins. They made the Super Bowl maybe once about, 8 or 10 years ago. So I'd like to see that team do well, but the Chargers will be interesting to see how they perform, because Justin Herbert was throwing the ball a lot more last weekend.
Yeah, very much so. So they're going to make it a throwing contest. Can the Chargers hold up to all the things? If Murray's got all of his people on the field, this to me, despite Harbaugh and all the semantics and all the sales pitches, this could be an ambush game.
Well, I saw someone post online that the next 5 or 6 games for the Chargers are against teams that they can beat. I mean, if they run the table here, they could be in good shape. So, yeah, this is the first of that step. Maybe it is an ambush.
But what did I say at the onset of this segment? Who the hell have they beaten?
Yeah, that's true, too. Yeah.
So interesting there. But, man, Green Bay, Houston, Detroit, Minnesota, Chiefs, Niners, Baltimore, Tampa Bay. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a replay of the Super Bowl with the Chiefs and Niners. I'm going to definitely watch that. And it is just so darn impressive. Brock Purdy just continues to prove that he was the real deal. It wasn't just a fluke thing that first year. So that's incredible. So the other game I'm interested in, aren't the Vikings also undefeated? Is this a matchup of 2 undefeated teams in that game?
Yep.
Something's got to give.
Somebody's going to lose.
Yeah.
And that's the NFC North at its best. And we haven't seen a lot of great NFC football in recent years.
Yeah, the Norris division.
So those are hot topics on the table. We go from that. Last football comments.
Talking about some trades. You'd already talked about Davante Adams.
Let's just talk about the Jets. The Jets line up this weekend, and Davante Adams will play. And they got him on one side, and they got the kid from Ohio State, Garrett Williams, on the other side. And then you add into that equation just what they've got at the skill position. Breece Hall is playing a lot better running the football, and they're throwing the football to him. And Aaron Rodgers has got 2 tight ends that you can throw the football to. So that's going to be a fun game for these guys to go head to head. Suddenly they look really good. I don't know what they're going to do in Cleveland. That is a walking, talking disaster. I don't know if Browns fans are on suicide watch or what, but that's just horrible. Deshaun Watson's quarterback rating is now 76. He's taken 31 quarterback sacks in 6 games. They think Nick Chubb might be activated to play, but they don't know. He's had only 1 week of practice. And they traded Amari Cooper, the top wide receiver. They shipped him off to Buffalo in a giveaway. He was in the final year of his contract. Good receiver. He's never been the superstar stud I thought he was going to be. You know, not with the Raiders, not with the Cowboys, obviously not in Cleveland because of the quarterback scenario. So we'll have to keep that in mind. You got the Minnesota situation with Darnold. They just traded for another running back. This guy is explosive. They had him before and they let him go on a salary cap move. Cam Akers. Houston's got too many running backs. So they traded him back. Kevin O'Connell really likes him. He played at the University of Texas. He's a dart and dash guy who if he gets on the second level, he's really dangerous because he's got an extra gear. So he's added his juice to all the things that Minnesota's doing. And the last topic is in New England, which is miserable. They're at the bottom of virtually all the offensive rankings. And Robert Kraft this week went public and said, I regret giving Bill Belichick total power in the operation of the football side of the organization. Now, that's kind of weird for him after Brady and Belichick got him 6 rings. But now he's kind of indicated that there should have been a system of checks and balances, and there was not. And I really regret that a great deal, which is kind of a strange statement right now, especially since Belichick left and they were 29-38 post Tom Brady. And now they're 1-5 on top of that. So, I mean, they're sitting there with 30 wins after Tom Brady. And well, I can't do the math in my head, but it's sub 500, not looking better, even though Drake May is the quarterback of the future and has been put in as the starter. So they got a lot of problems there in New England, but Kraft going back on Belichick now after getting 6 rings, to me, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, boo-hoo-hoo for the Patriots and all those rings they had. I'm not about to play the violin. The question I have, you talked about Deshaun Watson and the quarterback ranking, and you even said he was like 76. And then Brock Purdy was 100. Help me understand the quarterback rating. Like, what is average? What's really good? What's excellent? What's, terrible?
Anybody that's north of 100 is having a really good season. Mm-hmm. I think the generic one, if you're north of 90, you're doing a good job at quarterback. If you slip into the 80s, that means you're scuffling. Maybe you're on a bad team. If you're in the 70s, that's usually reserved for somebody's backup quarterback who can't play. And Deshaun Watson, it's at 76. And it's a complex formula as it relates to yards per pass attempt, yards per completion, picks, fumbles, sacks. Guy's been sacked 31 times this season already. His decision-making process. He looks nothing like the quarterback who had been in Houston that did all those great things before he did all those bad things off the field. He's just not the same player, not the same person.
Interesting. Yeah, it's always interesting to break down these stats. I mean, so if you're, how many quarterbacks are over 100 right now? There's maybe only could count them on one hand.
I'd say maybe 5 to 6 max.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, you get 100 rating. That's what makes it impressive. When you see the kid at Washington, Jaden Daniels, at 107.
Wow.
A rookie.
Yeah.
On a not so great team, making lots of good plays. So it's really kind of interesting. So that's where we are, news and notes, college football. Hey, we get to halftime. We invite you to pick one of the topics we've already talked about. Jump on board into Fans Forum. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. If you've got projects, they've got all the materials. If you need ideas, they'd be glad to be your consultant. Regardless of what room in the house you're making repairs to or adding on, whether it's inside, whether it's at the workplace, or possibly out on the patio, out by the pool. You got projects, they've got materials, they've got ideas, they can be your best friend. These guys, DIXIELINE Lumber. And a reminder as we go to the second half, when we're done putting topics on the table, doing sports talk the way it should be done, we invite you to join us for Fans Forum. When we're done, we go to the chat box. John, just explain how everybody who's new to the live stream can actually be part of what we're doing. I don't know very many people that are doing this kind of stuff, but what is the Fans Forum chat box?
Yeah, Fans Forum is your chance to get involved. You got a question for this man in the Dodger sweatshirt? Just type it in the live chat on Facebook, X, and YouTube. We already see a bunch of people piling in. Roy is in there wondering why the Padres keep saying they're going to win every year for the last 55 years. Angel is in here. Emmanuel, K8, what's that? KB8SD, Alfonso, Raul. Got a lot of you involved here. We're going to get to everybody at the end of Hacksaw's Headlines.
And a couple of other reminders. I write about sports every day. See that address at the top of your screen, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. That's my website. When we're done with the podcast, I invite you to punch up the website and just sample the volume of information that we write every day. Regardless of what your favorite sport is, there'll probably be something there that will catch your attention. Website's always there. First thing every morning, you have your first cup of coffee or your jolt of Red Bull or whatever the hell it is you drink in the morning. Sample my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Also on the front page of the website, there's an orange box. It's called Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Fill that out. That way you get on the email list when we send lots of different things to the people part of the Insiders Group. You're all on Facebook. You're all on social media. I know you're on Twitter. I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team. It's real simple. When we're done, just go to Twitter, type in my handle at Hacksaw1090, hit the follow button. That way you'll get all the information I put up on X, and you get to participate in Hacksaw's mini polls because we do 2 to 3 questions every night to ask you what you think. So Hacksaw1090, hit the follow button. On top of all that, I want you to share, tell everybody what we do Mondays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. on this podcast. Also, want you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You do that, you'll get the alerts every time we put something new on the YouTube channel, which is a lot of different days of the week, in addition to the Monday and Thursday podcast. So those are the business items you now know. Okay, let's move to the second half. We're going to go lickety-split. Got a lot of other topics here we're going to just touch bases on.
Okay, let's talk NCAA football.
College football, big weekend. Interconference weekend. New guy playing old guy this weekend. Spotlight Southeastern Conference. That is Georgia, which used to be number 1. That is Texas, which is number 1. Now, these used to be arch enemies. They never played each other unless it was in a bowl game. Now they're conference members in the SEC. This is going to be a doozy of a game. Georgia's led by Heisman Trophy candidate Christian Beck. They got a lot of firepower. Kirby Smart's got a lot of good defensive players. Texas has got 2 quarterbacks. Quinn Ewers is back in as the starter. Steve Sarkisian has rebuilt that program with a snap of the fingers within 2 years window. So this game is going to be as important as, say, the Oregon game was against Ohio State as compared to the early season Texas-Michigan game up in Ann Arbor. That's going to be fun. It's really the marquee game on the college football schedule. Them dogs, those Longhorns. Mountain West Conference. I knew they were going to add. This came as a bit of a surprise. Of course, the Mountain West lost the top 4 schools who jump into the Pac-12. Mountain West has just expanded and admitted Hawaii, bringing them back as a full-time member. And what sold them to do it was that Hawaii decided that they would bring all their sports into the Mountain West. In addition, this comes after the hiring, the importation of Texas El Paso. So the Mountain West is now back up to 8, and that's great for them. To get Hawaii to do it, to get UTEP to do it, they promised them they would give them a bonus share as an entrance fee for joining the Mountain West, about $2.7 million. Each of those schools will get as a bonus share, and they'll get full TV revenue. Whatever the new TV contract is, the Mountain West is to negotiate. UTEP and Hawaii will be there. So at the end of the day, Mountain West kind of looks like it's whole again. It's full. But at the end of the day, I'm sorry, the Mountain West looks like the old Western Athletic Conference to me.
Yes, it does.
So that's where we are there. Southeastern Conference, week-long meetings with the Big Ten. These are the preeminent conferences in the country, big boy football. There was a lot of dialogue that the SEC and the Big Ten would join hands and lead a breakaway in college football and form a super conference. The athletic directors and the presidents of the SEC said, no, we're not ready to do that. College football needs to walk through all the restructuring we've gone through, needs to have the 12-team playoff and see how everything fits. However, that being said, because college athletics right now is all about the TV contracts, the Big Ten and the SEC, John, have just agreed to a, quote, scheduling alliance. They're going to play 8 games amongst themselves as non-conference games. So you could have Ohio State versus Georgia. You could have Michigan versus Texas. And what they're going to do, they're going to call it an elite package, TV package, and they're going to sell that as a separate entity to what's their current TV contracts. More money coming in the door. So if you go to a TV network, pick one that doesn't have a big package. CW. You want to be a player in college football? Okay, we have the scheduling alliance. Ohio State, Georgia. It'll be a non-conference game. Top 2 teams in the country, top 5 rankings. We'll put it on the CW, and we'll do the same thing. You know, you're going to get Michigan, you're going to get Iowa, you're going to get Penn State, you might get USC. They're all from the Big Ten. They're going to play somebody in the SEC. They're going to be 8 of those games, non-conference during the season. It's all about the bank. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
But that's a fascinating way to add more money into the pot of gold that those 2 conferences have. Meanwhile, Big 12 is kind of laying out there in the weeds. I hate to say they're a non-entity, but they're not what these guys are.
No.
Atlantic Coast Conference, definitely not what these guys are.
No.
And whatever the Pac-12 evolves back into 2 years from now, that's not going to be the equal to the big boys. So those are the latest college football notes. And John Riley says,
it's funny, the SEC and Big Ten are like, no, we're not going to break away, but they're kind of taking steps in that direction with this alliance. Well, we'll see how this all sorts out. It is a money thing. The part of the Mountain West is an interesting discussion because Texas, El Paso kind of makes sense. It fits there geographically. And, you know, it's a mountain. It's in the mountain area. I always think of a Sun Bowl they used to have there.
It's still there.
It's still there.
Very popular.
And it just looked like just a sun-drenched, sun-bleached stadium, if I remember. But Hawaii, I don't know how to say this the right way, but it feels like, you know, it's almost like a charity to let them come into your conference because you know they deserve to be in the conference. You know that America knows that they should be in the conference.
And they used to be in the
conference. But they're just so isolated out there. And it just creates all these travel problems for everybody else.
Well, Hawaii was in such straits the last couple of years because they had trouble getting people to come out to the island. And they can't play all road games. That's not fair to the program and the kids. Hawaii was paying travel fees for every school that would fly to the islands to play them. Well, part of this deal, the Mountain West said, we'll pick up the travel cost. You don't have to pay that.
Really?
At which point Hawaii said, I'll buy that. And then they gave them the bonus. They're getting a cut, a small cut, 5% cut of the Pac-12 money that's being paid for taking the schools. Some of that's going to be redirected, and they're giving them the full boat of the TV conference revenue. They'll be on the same footing as San Diego State, whatever. So I think it's a lifesaver, life preserver for the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. And UTEP hasn't been real good in football recently. Was a long time ago. Has been good in college basketball. And that's a geographic thing, I think, to link them close to New Mexico. And there's a rivalry there. So at the end of the day, though, the flagship schools in the Mountain West, the Boise's and the Aztecs, they're going over there. This Mountain West kind of looks like the Western Athletic Conference 2.0.
Oh, yeah, the whack. You know, but imagine if you're a UTEP football player, man, you get a chance to go to Hawaii. Yeah. I mean, that's good on them for those kids. But, yeah, it is a lot like the whack. So, yeah, Georgia, Texas, going to be a great game this weekend.
On we go from football. Let's talk basketball.
Lakers, Clippers, and we're getting near the start of the season.
Next week. Nice headline. Not good news. The Clippers have just announced within the hour Kawhi Leonard will not be with them to start the season. I think Kawhi's career is in jeopardy. He's not practiced. He's not played in any games. He's on 3 different weight programs, quote, trying to strengthen and eradicate the inflammation in his 3 times surgically repaired right knee. I think his career is in huge jeopardy. And this is just year one of a 3-year contract that he signed worth more than $50 million per season. And if they don't have Kawhi Leonard, they have no hope at all. Because I just don't think you can think that a team led by James Harden, who's got 1,000 miles on an odometer, and Zubac, the center, that they can win in the Pacific Division. I think we're facing the end of his career, and it's sad. He's had 3 surgeries, and it continues to flare. You know, unless they can do cartilage transplant surgery, but that's a 2-year process with the hope it works. I just don't see that Kawhi's going to be able to play in the NBA like he played before, if he can play at all. And the fact that within the hours we were going on, they made that announcement, that's terrible. Lakers. So they hired J.J. Redick, and his playbook is all about moving the ball and getting 3-point shots and playing with intensity and ratcheting up defense. They're hitting 22% of their threes in preseason. They're launching. They're not sinking them. So, I mean, it's huge questions. I mean, here's D'Angelo Russell, the guard that surprised him by opting in with his contract. He went 0 for 12, I think, the other night, shooting the ball. This is your veteran starting point guard who can shoot threes doing that. Bronny James, 2 for 17, shooting the ball in 4 preseason games. I guess he's a legacy, so he'll make the 12-man roster, but 2 for 17 in preseason, not playing veterans? Ooh, that's not good. Dalton Connect has been hot. He's been cold. They want him to shoot a lot. If he can be a consistent 3-point shooter for them, that's going to help the offense, but he's only 10 of 37 on threes in the 4 preseason games. So Lakers have not had a great preseason. I know you could say, well, Hacksaw, Anthony Davis has not played a lot. LeBron's hardly played at all. I understand that. But when you're playing my scrubs or my rookies versus your scrubs and rookies, you would think Connect and Bronny would do a little better. They've not. So Lakers have won 1 preseason game, and we're going to the opening of the next season. I think the jury has to still be out about, is J.J. Redick's playbook really going to work? So we'll find out. So your comment on, you can identify with shooting air balls, can you? Yes. Your comments on the Lakers and 3-point shots, and your comments on what has befallen Kawhi Leonard.
I feel bad for Kawhi. I mean, just such a dude, and we followed him here at San Diego State, but it doesn't look good for him. I mean, I think, that's trouble. How old is he?
He's got 32, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. So, there's only so many miles on that knee.
Yeah, three surgeries, and that's the problem. He's just never come back from the 3rd one, and the shutdown and the rehab, and you can use all the generic comments about new weight program and and plasma platelet injections. He's not practiced. And now they just announced at noon today, as we were going on the air, he's out indefinitely. He is not going to be part of this team on the floor.
Brutal. Just brutal. I mean, it's also the curse of the Clippers too, by the way. And a little bit of a tangent on the Clippers. Did you see how Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Clippers, started this new thing called USA Facts? He was being interviewed on CNN, and he's creating this, I don't know if it's a website or an organization, just to put out data about the reality of what's happening in society and politics and everything else.
He's a brilliant guy.
He really is.
Unbelievably.
So I'm kind of curious to see how that thing goes. As far as the Lakers go, Bronny, I mean, he's not going to make the 12-man roster. He's going to be on the G League roster, right?
Probably, but he's got a guaranteed contract.
Oh, geez. So, I mean, Connect would be nice to see him stroke some. I mean, because the highlights I saw of him at Tennessee look really, really good.
And it hasn't, he's playing in the NBA now. It's a different breed of guy. And come next week in the opening of the season, he's playing Pro Bowl guys. He's playing real NBA players. He's not playing preseason guys who are getting cut. And 10 for 37 against those guys, that's not good.
Well, do you think there's a chance that neither one of these teams might make the playoffs?
I think the Lakers, because they got AD and King James, I think they could make it. Connect, to me, is a most important facet. If he can do what he did at Tennessee, which means shoot it, hit threes, go to the basket, if he can do that makes Austin Reeves different. That makes Hachimura different. That makes D'Angelo Russell a little bit different, because his 3-pointers, if they fall, are going to add vibrancy to that offense. But right now, nobody's shooting threes. 22%. Five games into preseason with J.J. Redick's playbook.
Yeah, that ain't getting it done.
No, so then we start playing real people next week.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that's what's going on in the NBA. Couple of other items.
Yeah, the Gulls, and you had a great one man's opinion on the Gulls. You broke it all down.
Yeah, they're not talking to me right now. Hockey night in San Diego. Gulls are off to start the season. First home opener, Friday night, Coachella Valley. I mean, I love Gulls hockey, and it was important because this is a good hockey market. This used to be a good franchise. The working agreement has really been substandard. The Ducks have gone through their painful rebuilding. The problem is the Ducks have drafted really high, drafted well, but they force-fed all the kids up at the NHL level, and they haven't won with them. I was hoping that some of these kids are going to wind up in San Diego to start their careers, and then we get a flash look at some of the good players. Because when they first came here, when the Ducks started sending their draft picks here, the Gulls were really good. You know, I sat behind the penalty box. I rapped on that glass, drinking a beer, sitting next to the ladies, and the Gulls were drawn 11 and 12,000. But because they've been so bad recently, the Gulls are now they're averaging 4,000 and 5,000 because they haven't made the playoffs a couple of years in a row. Now, that being said, they do have some young players, and if you're a hockey fan, give them an opportunity. If you're not a hockey fan, you should probably sample the product. They've got a big defenseman who's going to be in Anaheim maybe before the end of the season. His name is Noah Warren, big guy from the Ontario Hockey League. They've got a 50-goal scorer from the Western Hockey League, from the Junior League. He's a Russian, Igor Sidorov. This year they went out and they landed Sam Colangelo. Scored a ton of goals at Western Michigan. College guy making the transition here. Then you add into that, Pavel Regenda comes back. He scored almost 20 goals last season as a raw rookie. Young goaltender Kelly Klang is here. And they brought in 6 veteran AHL guys, including a former San Jose Shark forward in Ryan Carpenter. So I think the pieces are there to be much better than they have been. But I'll tell you, the pain of watching Gulls hockey has just been terrible the last couple of years. They must not have any friends in the league office. The American Hockey League has them playing 7 of their first 8 on the road, and they go to Canada twice to play the Canadian teams up there. Their one home game is Friday night against Coachella Valley, which, by the way, is a top farm club of Seattle. Coachella Valley Firebirds have played in the Calder Cup finals each of the last 2 years as an expansion team.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive what Seattle has sent them. They play, get this, they play 3 home games in 35 days, the Gulls. They're going to be on the freaking road to begin the whole season. So
that's over a month.
Yeah, I hope they're not digging themselves a hole. But if you like hockey, sample it. If you've never been to a hockey game, be prepared for noise, drink beer, and a lot of pretty women, because that's what Gulls hockey at Pechanga Arena is. Give them an opportunity. I hope this is a bounce back season for them. And John Riley, who was escorted out of his seat for throwing beer at somebody from Stockton, I believe it was 2 years ago. What do you think?
First of all, I think it's incredible that you cover the minor league hockey team here in San Diego. I mean, you're obviously a hockey guy. You've been a play-by-play man in professional hockey, but I can't imagine there's a lot of media covering the San Diego Gulls.
I was the only one who went to practice last week in the working media.
Yeah. And so, your one man's opinion column came out and, you were praising them where they wanted to be praised, and you were pointing out some of the flaws in the overall organization. But now you say they're not talking to you?
No, I'm only kidding.
Oh, you're just kidding.
I haven't tried to talk to anybody recently. If you like hockey, check my one man's opinion column about the Gulls.
Yeah.
I think the headline was the Gulls are going to win. ? Just when.
Yeah.
Because it's been bad. I mean, they've gone through 4 head coaches in 5 years. They got a bright guy in Matt McIlvaine who came from Europe. He's in here for his second year. Back in the day, they had a really good coach, Dallas Aikens, who did a great job, and he wanted to go to Anaheim, but he got caught up in the swirl of the Anaheim rebuild, and they finally hit the eject button on him. But McIlvaine I think, has got a lot of qualities as a head coach, but they're young. All their goal scorers are young. Hardly any of them have been here to do it. So there's a learning curve there. But you like hockey? Jump on board.
Well, I want to say this. So every time I go to a Gulls game, I'm always surprised and pleased to see so many fans wearing the Gulls gear.
Yeah.
You know, the hockey jerseys, you know, those colors of orange and black and what is it, like a turquoise blue.
Mm-hmm.
And you see them everywhere. And so there is a loyal following of Gulls fans here in San Diego.
The coolest thing, the year that they announced the American Hockey League was putting a franchise in San Diego, and I broke the story on Channel 6 when I was doing TV sports anchor stuff. Anyhow, they had a sneak preview, welcome the team get together at the sports arena.
Oh,
they had 1,800 fans show up on a Sunday during the NFL season to welcome hockey back.
Cool.
Now, the other thing, if you go to a Gulls game and between periods, just walk the concourse, you will think you're in an NHL arena because hockey fan in San Diego probably came from somewhere else, and they're wearing Ranger jerseys, Penguins jerseys, Flyers jerseys, Maple Leaf jerseys, the hated Montreal Canadiens jersey. So, I mean, it's quite an experience just to walk the concourse at a Gulls game to see the fans. This is a good hockey town. We need to get a good product back on the ice, and I'm hoping this becomes a bounce back season. But read my one man's opinion column. So we go from that. Last topic on the table. You're going to corner kick me some information on this?
Yeah, USA Soccer, lawsuits and unruly fans.
Yeah, FIFA has got a huge problem on its hands. FIFA is the governing body of global soccer. FIFA this week on Wednesday was sued by the Players Association, representing all the players in Europe from all the federations. They are asked for a court injunction. FIFA controls everything. They control revenue streams, sponsorships, scheduling, tournaments, etc. The players are upset that FIFA keeps adding more games to the annual yearly schedule, not compensating the players for additional games they're asked to play, and there's no recovery time for these guys. These guys are playing for their clubs in the different leagues, English Premier League, German Bundesliga, etc. Then they're playing for their country in qualifying games, CONCACAF, Gold Cup, World Cup qualifying. They're playing there. And now FIFA has started a thing called the Club World Cup, which is going to kick into gear this year, which is more games for these guys to play. And the players say, you're not compensating us for all this extra stuff, and there's no recovery time. They got some guys that have had to play 52 games. The wear and tear factor on players is unbelievable. The players are threatening a lawsuit to strike. The players are threatening to shut down La Liga in Spain, what's going on in Germany, Italy, unless they are allowed to come to the bargaining table and have input into the decisions that FIFA has been making. So that's a big issue. Second issue involving FIFA. I don't know how you control this. You know, Team USA just played a, quote, friendly in Guadalajara. It was ugly. Mexican fans have this tradition of singing and chanting against the opposing teams. Singing and chanting homophobic slurs.
Oh, God.
It's been going on. And FIFA has fined the Mexican Federation something like $700,000. And the USA-Mexico game, friendly this week, USA lost 2-0. All these fans did was chant and sing homosexual slurs towards the American players.
Jeez.
So FIFA can't control these people. There is one way to control it. If I were king, if I were FIFA, and they've had these problems in other locales in the globe where they've really disciplined the fans and the teams. If I were FIFA, I would not schedule international events in Mexico. I would not make those games available for Mexican fans to come to the field and act the way they've acted. Take the Gold Cup games out of there. Take the CONCACAF tournament games out of Mexico. You can play them lots of other places, be it San Antonio or Los Angeles or San Juan, Puerto Rico. Don't send the international games because that's the only way you send a message. You're not going to get to see your team play at home in these important games because of the way you just continue to act and the terrible slurs against the American players. And by the way, speaking of Team USA, they lost 2-0, but they did not have four of their key guys. Christian Pulisic was not available because he was back with AC Milan. They lost Fo Balogun, their young goal scorer. shoulder dislocation. He's not going to play. Gio Reyna did not play. So they're a little bit banged up. But Mauricio Paracino, the new head coach, says, we just need patience. I've been with this team for just 10 days. We will get better going forward as we get all of our guys there. It's so hard for him to put together the roster to train because these guys are playing their scheduled games in England or in Italy or wherever they are. There's a short window to get these guys here and train them. He said, I had 10 days with my team and some of my key guys were hurt when they got here, so we could not play them. So he said, patience, it's going to take time. So he's won one, he's lost one. So, John, FIFA making you play more games than you should be playing. And FIFA, the whole homophobic slur thing. And then you got Team USA. Now, don't kick the ball out of bounds.
This is it's amazing. First, I want to understand how a soccer player gets paid, because obviously they get a salary from their club team. They're getting all kinds of endorsements, which is varies by player. But does the national team also give them a payment, a stipend or something?
Yeah, and there's awards money if USA does really well. USA men, women, they go to the World Cup.
Yeah,
huge bonanza if they get a medal or if they win the thing. Oh, they make tremendous money. And the women's program now is getting paid on the equal basis what the men are getting. It was not always that way. So there is a lot of revenue, but the human body can only handle so many appearances. Yeah. It's got to be recovery time. And that's what these guys are threatening. I'd be shocked if the players went out on strike against FIFA. But I'll tell you what, here, NFL, they struck. How many times has baseball's players struck?
Right.
Canceled the World Series. This might happen unless they are given chairs at the negotiating table with FIFA. And I hate to judge anybody. FIFA is so freaking corrupt. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, you said 52 games. Was that what it was?
Yeah, some of the players had to play 52 games.
That's more than once a week. I mean, and for soccer players, that's a lot.
Where's your recovery time?
Yeah, there is, and there's like no off season, sort of kind of no off season. And then, when they have the Champions Cup in Europe, they get extra money for that though. Right. And then is that part of their club team pays them, or is there like a separate pot of gold that they collect
Separate
from?
pot of gold.
Okay. So hopefully they're going to have to create more of these pots so there's more money to go around. The homophobic slur thing is obviously terrible, and, and disciplining them, like, essentially blacklisting the nation for a period of time makes sense. But remember, we were just talking about this in the WNBA. This kind of crap is going on. I mean, the WNBA can't say we're not going to play in Illinois anymore, so I don't know how that's going to have to work, but it's just like, come on, people. I mean, why are we stooping into the gutter for this?
Yeah. Mexican fans say that's the way things have been. Well, it doesn't mean it's right, but they refuse. They can't silence them. Well, the simplistic way to silence them is you don't schedule international events in Mexico.
Yeah.
Make your team have to go on the road. That'll send a message, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you just hate to be in the world of like policing speech. It's tricky. It's a dangerous spot to be in. I just come on, people, why are you throwing around that garbage? Team USA, I watched it for a little while last night, and it was cool to see that the game was in Mexico. Usually
Guadalajara.
Usually only play in America when those two teams face off. But I was looking at the roster, and a lot of these guys I didn't know. I mean, it was like the B team.
Well, they call a lot of guys up because what's the word I'm looking for? Load management.
Oh, there you
That's
go.
why they told Pulisic, don't come for this series of games. They had beaten Panama. The second friendly was against Mexico. Stay with AC Milan, do your rehab, etc. But then they get word that Balogun, who's a great young goal scorer, dislocated his shoulder. He's going to be gone 2 months. He's going to miss a whole bunch of time. And Gio Reyna has re-injured his groin. He's playing in Germany. So they got some people dinged up pretty good. Okay, those are topics on the table. We're going to Fans Forum now. You want to join us late. This is your opportunity to be part of this podcast. We do it at the end of the podcast, so you know all the topics and all of our opinions, and you get the chance to express yours. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. You got projects in the house, projects maybe at the workplace, stuff out on the patio near the pool. Think about them. They got materials and they got ideas. DIXIELINE Lumber. John, you think we got a few people stacked up here? Holy cow.
People are loving. They want to talk Dodgers. Let's go here to Emmanuel. About time Lee shows his true colors. Go Dodgers.
Oh, it's a great organization. Dodgers, the Dodgers are where they are because they earned it. And they earned it with all these pitching injuries, which is amazing to me that they are still playing. And I was with people this morning. I do a fitness center workout in the 6 o'clock hour, and they are so bummed that the Padres aren't playing baseball this week. And I say, so am I.
Yeah.
And they read my one man's opinion, my quote, Padres autopsy. Padres haven't responded to me either. So it's just Dodgers deserve it. They've earned it. The two most critical things, John, in postseason, are you healthy and are you hot?
Mm-hmm.
The Dodgers are finally healthy and the Dodgers are hot. And what they've accomplished with this bullpen, I would have never imagined that possible. When they did the bullpen day against the Padres, they thought they're dead. You're going to run 8 relievers out there, they're going to get lit up. And those 8 relievers shut out the Padres on that game. It was absolutely amazing. And then second time they did it, they got burned, came back and did it again a third time. And those guys are throwing BBs and bullets and smoke. And there you are.
And there you are. And Trinan, you ever watch Trinan pitch? I mean, that ball has the most wicked tilt at the very end, more so than any other pitcher I think I've ever seen. But, you have a loose connection with the Dodgers. You grew up in New York.
Yeah.
Did you ever get out to Ebbets Field?
Yeah, my dad, his first game I ever saw was at Ebbets Field.
Right on.
Dodgers, St. Louis Cardinals. My dad he was a Cardinal fan, took me to see, and got to see Stan Musial, got to see Jackie Robinson was right at the end of his career, and got to see the Boys of Summer.
Nice.
And just got to experience Ebbets Field. I mean, what a unique place it was just to walk around. You walk at the old stadiums, there's a view when you walk up to get to your seat, and all you see is the green grass. Oh. And then all you see, back those days, colored billboards along the outfield. Mm-hmm. And there's a unique smell to the ballpark. It's beer, it's hot dogs, it's, and there's a ding, there's a noise level that just, okay, what do you call it, cacophony? I mean, it's really it's really kind of cool. I mean, Petco is so neat, but back in the day, the old stadiums, the same thing. I went to Fenway Park in Boston. I walked out there and I was by the Green Monster. I looked at that. I said, God, there's so much tradition. How many great players had line drives off that green wall in left field. So yeah, the old stadiums are cool.
It's like going into like a European cathedral, with all the history and all the artistry, but just a tangent on what you said. Back in the day, like when you went, there were billboards along the outfield wall. And then remember, Major League Baseball went through a period where there were no advertisements. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly, I think the Houston Astros started to bring them back, and now they're everywhere again.
Exactly. There's neon lights, and it's just a different era. But that was early on. That's the way it was. Hey, you're right, Emmanuel. I do look good in Dodger blue. That may offend a few of his friends, but that's okay.
Yeah, let's go to another Dodger comment. This is from Javi. Have a good feeling about Yamamoto going against the free swinging Mets today. P.S. What time do the Padres play?
Javi, don't be afraid to pile on. That could be a 2-minute penalty for a cheap shot. But, hey, Dodgers earned it, so that's why the Dodgers are still playing. They played the late game in the 5 o'clock hour tonight against the New York Mets. You forget, the series is 2 in L.A., 3 at Citi Field, and then 2 more in L.A. If the Padres win this one on this Thursday night, they're up 3-1. The Dodgers are in a world of hurt if that happens.
Yeah.
Now, if Yamamoto doesn't get out of the 3rd inning, then the Mets are back in the series at 2-2. So we'll see. Yamamoto's pitched well. I was so impressed with Walker Buehler. I mean, I went back and looked. So he threw 4 shutout innings last night, and he was in hot water the whole time. He just pitched his ass off. But he threw 3 shutout innings against the Padres after the crap performance when his defense failed to turn 2 double plays dug that big hole. Mm-hmm. And he had the tantrum in the dugout. Yeah. And then he went out to the mound and he threw 3 scoreless innings. So he's thrown 7 straight shutout innings, striking out a lot of guys. And it was interesting in that Padre game when Dave Roberts came out to get him, and he said, "Get the F off my mound. I'm finishing this inning." And he did. He didn't allow any runs to score. So Buehler's now strung together 2 pretty impressive back-to-back games, pitching out of trouble.
You like to see that bulldog mentality, right? Sure. He's a winner. He wants to get out there and fight. I mean, I appreciate that in him, but it's it wasn't just a few weeks ago we were saying Buehler might be done. His career may be over. He just was ineffective, so inconsistent, and now suddenly he's like a Cy Young guy.
It was fascinating. Just listen to John Smoltz talk about Buehler and what it's like to come back from the surgery. I think Smoltz is the most elite color analyst there is because he's walked that road. And just for him to talk about rehab and to talk about the mental hurdles that a Buehler or somebody else, and Smoltz came off elbow surgery in Atlanta, and he had to, he rebuilt his career and made himself a great closer. But just to enunciate where you are physically, where you are emotionally, and all that type of rehab from the Tommy John surgery, and Buehler's done it twice. So that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. Okay, let's keep moving on here. Let's go to Callan. The U.S. men's national team coach is pleading for patience after the loss against Mexico, especially with 4 guys out. How many matches do you think he'll need to get the players to buy into the system?
Well, I think they'll buy into the system because they know his history. Pulisic held a team meeting after the hire and said, you're going to like this guy. This guy is aggressive. This guy pushes the ball up the field. We will play physical. Just look at the guy's track record at what he did at Chelsea, Hotspur, what he did in Germany. Now, he's got to have healthy players. He can't have guys going down while playing for their other clubs and then get injured guys here. But we got plenty of time. I mean, World Cup is not just around the corner. So, they've got international games coming up. CONCACAF tournament will be coming up in 2025. So there will be time for him to implement his system and get his guys there. The thing is, can they be healthy when they get here to resume training under his playbook?
Yeah, it is early. I mean, and he was just signed as a coach a few weeks ago, so we got to give him time. But what's one thing I noticed in the game last night that I had never seen is they're using green screen to put more advertising on the field. Because, around the soccer field, they have those boards.
Yes.
And now they're electronic, always swapping. But the green grass that's out of bounds.
It's got logos on it now.
Yeah, they've been projected like, on the TV broadcast.
It's called technology.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to come up with money for all of this. So
it's like us. Who the hell thought we'd be doing this? Go ahead. Next question.
Okay, you're going to love this one, Hacksaw. Jordan says, who in their right mind watches this nonsense? Old man yelling, get off my lawn.
Jordan, don't talk about my co-host like that. This is his studio. He's part of the podcast. Jordan, agree or disagree doesn't matter as long as you participate, and you just did.
Yeah, and he's watching, so obviously.
Cool.
So, okay, let's go to Angel. Hey, if I'm a Padres, I would keep Cease and King, especially with Musgrove getting Tommy John. San Diego needs arms.
But they got some tough decisions because I don't think ownership is going to sign off on anything north of a $200 million payroll. I mean, it was 169. It's a huge issue. I'm at this point in time, I just don't know how far they're going to go, which means if they're not going to push this thing from 169 to 200, that means guys got to leave. And I don't know who those are going to be. If you don't pick up the option on Ha-Seong Kim, or he's going to reject the option, that's only $8 million. You're going to have to find more money because these other guys they're going to get big pay bumps, and that includes the kid in center field, and that obviously includes 2 of your frontline pitchers who deserve pay hikes. So, I don't know. Is it sacrilegious to say maybe ARRAEZ isn't the right guy at $14.8 million for a singles hitter? It's a tough call.
Like, just walk away from the deal, like, because it's
they don't offer him arbitration,
and then he just becomes a free agent.
Yeah,
that'd be a tough one. Just talk about the money here, because we already know the Padres TV deal all went sideways, and I think is there a chance they're going to get any revenue from their TV
well,
deal?
they are getting revenue from MLB, from the streaming package.
But it's a lot less than the $60 million.
Yeah, I don't think it's 60 million. I don't even know if it's 40 mil. Baseball bailed them out the first year. This year, they were operating in a different structure, and baseball sold the inventory and shared the revenue with the Padres. But I don't think it's anywhere near what they were getting before. But because of what they were getting before and everybody else was getting before from Bally and Diamond, that's why those guys are in bankruptcy.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned that the TV ratings in Japan were really high for Game 5 of the NLDS. Do the Padres and Dodgers get a little bit of that money?
I think, though, that goes into a pot of gold. International broadcast rights, it's all shared by everybody.
That makes sense.
Okay, next topic.
Okay, let's go to the practicing guitarist. Winning organizations win games like Game 5 of the NLDS. The Padres are not a winning organization. Now the window is closed. 2024 was the year, and Machado's baseball card shows that he chokes in the postseason.
That's cruel, but the dude did hit 179. It's so tough. When they made all the trades at the deadline, if you were watching our podcast back around August 1st, and AJ Preller wound up trading 15 top prospects to get all these transactions done, to get Cease, get ARRAEZ, and then get the bullpen group that came at the trade deadline. I said here on this podcast, have to win, have to be in the World Series this year or next year, because this is a marquee team that's built to win. Because in 2 years, a bunch of these guys are going to be 35. You're on the hook for contracts into age 40 for a whole pile of these guys, and you don't have anything in the farm system yet that's ready, anybody close. And you're committed to all these contracts. So if they're going to do it, has to be this year, next year. Didn't get done disappointingly this year. There is next year. But as we threw the board up, the first topic we covered is how you're going to pay all these guys. If ownership is not going to allow a $230 million payroll, that's what it would be if you gave Cease and you gave Merrill and you gave ARRAEZ all the money that they could get through arbitration. It's not going to happen. So there are going to be some guys leaving here. So it might not be the same team going forward next year. But they got this year, they missed it. They got next year. Because after that, then I think you're looking rebuild.
Well, you said that AJ Preller was potentially the executive of the year. Mm-hmm. So you think he can pull his magic again and work some more of these deals?
Well, maybe. I guess so. You know, he got ARRAEZ for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He gave up prospects. He didn't pay any of ARRAEZ's salary. But next year, he's going to have to pay the whole thing if he wants the guy back.
Right. And
his whole thing is going to go from $8 million this year that Miami paid. It's going to be up to $14.8 million, according to the arbitration figures that I saw, that he's probably going to get. 3-time batting champion, but he's got limitations. So, yeah, can he work some magic? Yeah. Is he going to trade more people from the farm system? Maybe, because that's who he is. That's how he acts.
Yeah.
But
that's his currency.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean down the road that's going to work out. It's a tough call. I tell you, between now and December 1st, wow, some tough decisions to be made.
Moving on. Let's go to Chris. Oh, Canada line from Pasadena. Let's face it, the Kings are a joke. You always yapping about the stud blue liners and the hot young snipers. These players do not exist. A bunch of no names, no goaltending, and no name boring coach. And yes, I know Doughty is hurt. Reaction.
Well, that was a bad road trip. I mean, they gave up 8 goals. Their starting goaltender, Darcy Kemper, gave up 8 goals in Ottawa, and then he got hurt at the end of the game. So last night they went to David Riddick, who was the backup. He becomes a starter, and at one point they were trailing the Maple Leafs 5-0. They got the weakest link right now is between the pipes and goal. I still think they got an awful lot of firepower up front. A little bit shaky on defense with Doughty not there to eat up 35 minutes a night. I will say this, Brant Clark, I thought played really well last night, and he's just a young guy that they're force feeding, and he's big and a wide body guy, and he's an offensive minded guy. So I'm not ready to give up on the Kings season, but goaltending was an issue to start. Goaltending was an issue last year. They haven't solved the goaltending issue right now, and you got to have somebody to stop the puck. Otherwise, the puck goes in the net. I mean, and for Ottawa to score 8 goals on that starting goaltender, man, that was a shocker, because Ottawa's not, I don't think it's a very good team either. So we'll see where the Kings go. They got Montreal next.
I love Chris. He always likes to channel the hacksaw shtick in his commentary, which is just fantastic.
Okay, thanks for joining us on the old Canada line.
Okay, let's go here. Forsco's Fabio, 19 days until Aztec basketball.
Major rebuild. A lot of unanswered questions. Yeah, you do have Reese Waters back. They did pick up the transfer from the University of San Diego, the guard. But major questions amongst the bigs. And we'll just have to see how the 7-foot center from Sudan, who's never played, is going to play and how he's going to hold up. But he sure looks like he's gifted, and he's just so big and so wide, so long. But an awful lot of new guys. I think the biggest disappointment to me is they lost Elijah Sanders, who transferred to Virginia right at the end of the season. I don't think the parting of the ways was real good. I don't understand it, because they were going to build around him. Now, there will be a step forward. They got two bigs that are going to play a lot more this year who played a lot last year. But boy, there's a lot of new pieces there too. I think it's the first, quote, rebuild that Brian Dutcher's really had to go through.
Yeah, but you always got to trust in Dutch,
Sure.
man, And what's the kid's name? Magoon Wath. I mean,
Yes.
it's like 7-footer that can hit threes. And the Pharaoh Compton, I think, was just named the preseason rookie of the year
in the conference.
So there's a lot to be hopeful for here. And there is a lot of talent. And some of these other guys are going to start to get an opportunity, like BJ Davis, for example.
Yeah, and they've got some veteran experience. I mean, McKinney comes from across the street at USD, and that guy, he played a lot for 3 years, and he has hit shots. So I think they're going to be okay in the backcourt. I need Reese Waters to be what he was the first time he got here. Last year was kind of a substandard season. He had some injuries along the way, but a little bit of rebuilding going on there. So I'm not sure. They were picked 4th in the conference, and obviously Boise and Vegas and Reno are, I think, just ahead of them. So we'll just have to see where it goes.
Have you heard about this guy at UNLV, Bear Cherry?
No.
He's apparently this incredible player. Someone was tweeting about him, which is kind of a funny name. But the Mountain West is going to be a lot better this year.
Mountain West become a pretty even Steven basketball conference.
Yeah, I
even
agree.
with the transfer portal, everybody's got kids, everybody's got players. So, all right, next question.
Okay, here let's go to Dick, and Dick says, "Gulls fan since 1966. What does it say? 5th again? Go Gulls."
Got to prove they can score. Young guys, it's a learning curve. It's a fierce learning curve to play at this next level. The kids that play junior hockey, like the Russian Sidorov, who scored 50 goals. Now, they play a lot of games in the Western Hockey League, which is the junior league out in Western Canada. But now you're playing against men. You're not playing against 18 and 19-year-old guys. So there's a learning curve there against that level of competition. And it's a different grind. College hockey players, they live a nice life. They play on Friday and Saturday. That's it. And they practice. It's kind of first-class travel. I mean, you play at Harvard or Boston U or Boston College. You're only playing twice a week for the most part. Now you're playing a freaking 72-game schedule, bus trips, airlines, and all that. And you're playing against men. So transition is culture shock. But Anaheim brought in 6 veteran AHL guys who've had taste in the NHL. Their starting goaltenders played 7 years in the American League. Oscar Dance had been with Las Vegas. One of their captains is Ryan Carpenter. He played for the San Jose Sharks. He's played a lot in the AHL. They got 2 massively big veteran defensemen, Hetherington and McEwen, have both played in the Calder Cup finals. They are kind of AHL veteran guys. So maybe there'll be a little bit more stability there. But young goal scorers, I mean, the Regendas of the world, and as I said, Sidorov, they got to learn how to play at this level and score, and it just takes time.
Man, love you, Saw.
I know what I know. I know.
You just put a topic on the table, and boom, there's all this information. Here's a comment that probably backs that up. This is from Damon. He goes, "Hacksaw is probably the most intelligent sports host out there, way beyond the ones who just yell and shout nonsense."
I know what I know, and I happen to think we're pretty good. That's why this podcast is just raging. And we got to take a time out for a minute here. We need to congratulate everybody. We just busted through 6,000 subscribers.
Right on.
6,000 in 15 months. That's pretty impressive, and that's all on you, which means you like what we're doing in terms of, quote, sports talk the way it should be done. Topics on the table. So, I don't know. Should I challenge everybody who's a subscriber and watching? Can you get us to 10,000? Can we get 10,000 subscribers here maybe by the first of the year? I mean, wouldn't that be something, going from absolute ground zero? When we started this, I didn't know anything about technology. This dude didn't know anything about me, and it's worked. So congratulations to you to get us to 6,000 subscribers on YouTube. And just like we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers on social media on X. So your help, you can push us over the top.
Yeah, and we're real close to 20,000 on Instagram. So everything's growing, everyone's growing. Everyone loves the content.
Well, they don't love the host, but that's that's on you. You act the way you
Well, a little bit of humble pie wearing the Dodger sweater. I think they're going to enjoy that. Willie says, Forbes estimated Padres local TV revenue for 2024 at $20 million. Terrible drop from Bally's payout.
Well, Major League Baseball is the one that packages it. The Padres sell some inventory, et cetera. There's a revenue share there. Now that revenue share may grow going forward because Diamond Sports Bally, which is in the middle of a bankruptcy war with the judges and with MLB. They just let go 11 other teams that have been informed we're not going to televise you in 2025. That includes the Angels, for example. So those teams are going to come in and they're going to join MLB's streaming package. So when MLB goes to national advertisers and they go to Budweiser and say, you will get your 30-second TV commercials in our streaming package in 11 different markets, come with us. So there's more clout. It's just not the Padres and the Texas Rangers or the Padres and the Angels. It's now going to be in at least 11 markets with a streaming package. Now, granted, it's not in New York because of Sports New York. It's not in LA with Dodgers Spectrum. It's not Boston because of NITE-SAN, the New England network. But if they get more than 11, if they get this thing up to 15, which they conceivably could, now you got more eyeballs watching the respective teams. You get to see the Budweiser commercial. So it's a long road, but they've made progress. I think you'd agree with me, John. The telecasts have been pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. And I think, it's just all about scale, and trying to build a business. Let me ask you this. So what do you think about the differences between the regular broadcasts that we see with Dawn and Mud, and then when Apple TV does it, or some of these other ones? I mean, well, you don't even subscribe to Apple TV, do you?
No, I can't subscribe to everything.
You can't.
I'm not like you.
Well, because the graphics there are so good,
Yep.
and it's like 4K and it's brilliant, but it's just so tough when we get these other announcers from out of market. It just doesn't work.
Well, part of the broadcast become generic and homogenized rather than a home spin, but that's not bad. I'm trying to remember where I was, it was in Arizona. I saw the Diamondbacks telecast, but it had the same graphics that Padres did. It had the same musical jingles in and out, just different announcers. So there's a brand. This is their style. This is the way they do it. Now, if they go to Amazon, if they go to Apple, they use their creative juice to actually make a very, very different presentation.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how all the business aspects of this work. Want to do a little social media?
Should we?
The social media people were just ripping on you. So let's see what we can find here.
Was it me or was it you?
I don't know.
Or you only picked the ones that tagged me. Okay, thank you.
All right, just at random. Here we go. This is from Stay in Your Lane, okay? Talking about Padres postmortem. Kind of funny that your team is called the Padres when Los Angeles is Yo Daddy and your French fry burritos are lame and mediocre.
Well, it's a disappointing end of the season. As I said, great season - great disappointment in the Padre autopsy column that I posted on my website. But at the end of the day, stay in your lane. That was your people that were throwing garbage in the Padres bullpen. That was your people throwing balls at my outfielder or the Padre outfielder. So let's just go a little bit easy on Padre fans and Padre coverage, because the whole nation got to see how unruly Dodger drunk was along the way. Now, that was a one-time occurrence. It's going to go away. Dodger baseball is great. I've sat out in the pavilion. I've been in the Dodger Stadium press box. It's just kind of cool. And I'm a big heritage guy. I love the history of the Dodgers organization. But, let's not bag as if everything down here is wrong and everything up there with you is right, because it sure wasn't right that night. Your people were throwing all that junk on the field.
See, this is what makes a rivalry fun, when people are, throwing jabs and we're having fun with it, and yeah, the Padres lost, the Dodgers won. So you got to give it up. But I just love this exchange. And by the way, I just want to go on record saying the California burrito is the one with the French fries in it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been a fan of that. Have you ever had that before? Just the carne asada burritos, you can't go wrong. But why mess it up with French fries in there?
Rubio's,
that's a good place to go.
Thank you for the input. Stay in your lane. You come back and be with us on Monday, would you? Go ahead, John.
Okay, let's go here to SBT talking more Padres. Lee, you've been around long enough to know that the leagues dictate who moves on. Markets and desired matchups dictate this. They want Ohtani versus Judge, the two biggest markets. They learned last year with Arizona. Have you seen ARRAEZ try to home run every time up like he did? Have you seen Higgy take straight fastballs grooved on the inner third without him going yard? Have you seen Tatis hitting 600 in the playoffs all of a sudden take heaters for strikes? I know this narrative isn't sexy, but it's what happened. Trying to turn our squad into the Raiders of the MLB, the villains.
Conspiracies.
Totally.
Dude is totally sold on conspiracies. Now, baseball's got a unique scenario here. And by the way, should I throw cold water on him now? There's no conspiracies. But baseball's in such a great situation. They could have Ohtani, Judge, New York, LA. That'd fascinate a lot of baseball fans. They could also just have Subway Series. Yeah, they'd go crazy in the 212-940-213 area codes if it was Yankees versus New York Mets Subway Series. So this turns out to be win-win. Last year, Arizona, Texas, okay, they earned it, so they're there. I don't know that the rest of the world watched the D-backs versus the Rangers, and they both fell on hard times this season. But this turns out to be win-win, I think, for the commissioner's office and for baseball fans in the biggest markets. Although I don't think anybody in the state of New England's watching any of these damn playoff games.
No, and then Cleveland wants to spoil the whole mess.
Yes.
But conspiracy theories are obviously a bunch of BS, but they're fun to talk about. Now, did you hear the one about the different balls in the Major League Baseball, and they had the balls that were more juiced or more dead, and they were manipulating those?
Oh, do we have any facts here, or is that just junk coming out of your mouth?
Well, when the ball just gets, Machado only hits it to the warning track, that's when we start thinking about these things.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay, let's go here to Versha Aguiar. It says the Padres swung at bad pitches in Game 5, and they made a mistake putting in Cease. Perez should have been given an opportunity for having a good ending to the season. Agree with you, Hacksaw, and I wish they would hire you on 97.3.
Smart guy. That's a real smart guy.
Yeah.
Hey, at the end of the day, I'll just reiterate, if you weren't part of the post-mortem podcast we did, if you didn't read my column yet, you should read my columns on my website. But at the end of the day, you asked Dylan Cease, who had thrown 82 pitches in his last start and got racked by the Dodgers, didn't survive into the fourth inning. You asked him to come back on 3 days rest. He had never, ever done it. I would have much rather gone to Perez. And the first sign that Perez got banged around. Now, remember, Perez had a 2.65 ERA heading into his final regular season start. So he had pitched pretty well. Thank you, Ruben Niebla, pitching coach. If Perez had got banged around, you turn that game into a bullpen game. Now, if you win Game 4, great. If you don't win it, there's a Game 5, but you got Cease, an additional 2 days rest, and you're now on normal rotation for Cease, Darvish, and Michael King. So it was right there in front of them, and instead, and the Padres have not held a season-ending press conference. They're not talking about this. It's like they're hiding behind the door. You screwed up. You should not have done that to Cease. You hurt yourself, even though Darvish just pitched a man's game in the 2-0 loss in Game 5. So part of this is on that bad pitching decision. The other part is the Padre batting order did nothing. And, didn't hit with men on base, didn't hit with men on scoring position. The stars outside of Tatis did not hit. So there's multiple ways and rationales, but they put themselves in a bad position by starting Cease when they could have had alternatives and then would have had the front of their rotation in full cycle rested up for Game 5, and then what would have been the next series had they won in Game 5 against the Mets. That's one man's opinion. I'm just telling you what I think, but I know what I know.
How's Joe Musgrove feeling right now? He probably wishes he was there for his guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just didn't work out. But, like you said, you got to score runs. Now, as far as who the Padres should have started, check out this comment. I thought this was interesting. And this is from Sammy Boy Smith Rules. He says, Dodger fan here, not trolling, but what the F why didn't you start Waldron? I was scared to death you'd start him Game 4. Even if he lost, Dodger bats would be screwed up Game 5 from the knuckleball the day before. It's statistically proven that teams' batting averages dip considerably their next game and a half.
Well, Waldron had not pitched great ball at El Paso, and he was still trying to find the comfort zone. He's going to reinvent himself again, I think, in this offseason, and he'll be here. But at the end of the day, that first half of the season, that's why the Padres were still in a pennant race, is he saved their soul by the way he pitched. Fastball, curveball, knuckleball, but then it all caught up to him. And maybe it's scouting reports, maybe it was fatigue, maybe it was the pressure got to him, but I think he would have been a long reliever more than anything. I don't know they would have gone with him because Martin Perez had more success in 5 or 6 starts after he came in the trade deadline deal. Now, he did get dinged his final start. He got knocked all over the yard, but like I said, I mean, you could have used Waldron in long relief if Perez didn't do well and you wanted to save your pen. You could have made it a bullpen day, but Waldron's going to have to take the next step as a starter. But that was pretty impressive what that man did.
It's cool having a knuckleballer on the team,
Yeah.
you know, because it just gave us something different to see. Earlier in the season, like in June or July, I would say, yeah, Waldron would have been terrific at that time. But near the end of the season, it just seems like he lost something on the knuckleball.
Yeah, he didn't trust it, or they caught up to it, or they knew when to lay off it. And that's what scouting reports, that's what the whole analytics thing is finding a way to counteract what somebody else is doing. You know, that's what when the Dodgers had the bullpen day, and I thought to myself, this is going to be fatal. They're not going to survive this. And what they did was they went to Kopech in the 4th inning. And then they went to Evan Phillips, and, and then they went to Blake Trinan, and then they went to their left-hand Vesia. And what did they do? Their analytics guys said, this is the way the Padre lineup is structured. We're going to go to Kopech in the 4th inning when it's right-hander versus right-hander. And he came in and threw smoke. And the left-handers are coming up in the 5th. We're going Vesia. And then we're going back to the right-hander because the next group of guys. And the Padres just stopped hitting completely. I would have never, ever imagined that the Dodgers could have 8 guys coming out on a bullpen day and throw a shutout. I was just absolutely amazed. So the analytics guy on that one given day, their scouting report how to handle the Padre lineup, right-hander, right-hander, left-hander, left-hander. That was marvelous.
Think if you were an old-time scout, that's done it the way it's always been done. And suddenly these nerds with computers have figured out a new way. Those old-time scout guys must have thought, there's no way this is going to work. Now
I didn't think it was going to work, and I know everything about everything.
Yeah, you do. So I wonder if this is going to be a copycat thing.
But you're still trusting the 8 guys you're calling on bullpen day are all going to get people out. That doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Hell, it never happens. You get some occasional where some of these bullpen guys will do pretty well, but so that was probably a one-off. But since then, the Dodger bullpen, of course, they went to a bullpen day the next time, and it got killed. But then they came back and did it again. Then they were almost near perfect this last time out. So
yeah, so that's the one where Landon Knack got lit up, I think, is when they had trouble. Good on them. Tough on the Padres.
On we go.
On we go. Okay, let's go here. Talk a little. Let's go here. We already covered that one. Excuse me. I clicked on the wrong one. Let's go to Rita Smith. She says, I'm a huge Dodger fan who has lived in San Diego since 1982. Have never disliked the Padres team until now. They are so beyond cocky, arrogant, disrespectful, and it has rubbed off on the fan base. Can't stand them and so glad they got slapped. Hope they return to some level of professionalism, but am not optimistic as long as they still have Machado, Tatis, and Profar.
I guess Rita didn't like Profar jumping up and down on the outfield after he robbed them of a home run, and didn't like Tatis's bump grind after what he did going over the fence. I guess that's fans being fans. Have to understand, Padres have never won bleep. I mean, they never won a World Series. And I thought this was a year, maybe this thing was set up for them to get to the World Series. But there's nothing wrong with guys celebrating as long as it's not taunting along the way. Although some people of the opinion, Rita's one of them, that Profar and Tatis were taunting and Manny yapping at the dugout and Jack Flaherty yapping back and Dave Roberts doing what Dave Roberts did towards Machado. That everybody had an opinion and everybody reacted. It was pretty electric series, I thought.
Well, that's why they had so many people in Japan watching it. I mean, imagine the spectacle of all this, but they probably don't have a lot of that drama in Japanese baseball, I'm guessing.
No, there's something about, I don't know if I call it purity, but there's a style, there's a respect the way the games are played.
Yeah.
Hell, there wasn't a lot of respect between the Padres and Dodgers and the fans.
But, when you have like guys on your team that are kind of showboats, you love them when they're on your team, but you hate them when they're on the other team. Mm-hmm. It's like one of my villains is Jock Peterson. I always think he's a punk every time he plays. But
that's because dude hits home runs against you.
Yeah, and he is a bit cocky, and arrogant as he goes about it. But when they're on your team, they're your guys. But this was a fun season. I mean, it really was.
I thought it was a great baseball season. I think of all the years I've been here covering it, and that included the 98 team that went to Yankee Stadium World Series. Mm-hmm. This is the most fun to be around these guys and just to experience. I mean, all the come from behind wins, all the walk-off wins, the no-hitters, and what they got, the bullpen brigade. I mean, it's just fun to be at Petco Park and to experience it and just to see it and to see it grow and come together. Because at midseason, I think the common phrase we used was underachievers. It was same old, same old. And then it just flipped and it turned, and AJ did what AJ did to solidify the bullpen. So they got 2 years to get to the World Series. They lost the opportunity this year. They got next year to try to do it again.
Okay, let's keep moving. All right, let's go here. Talk about some Padres karma. This is from I Am Not Todd. Padres were enjoying themselves, and that's bad karma. Dodgers were headhunting, creating drama, yelling and screaming, and they're the respectable ones. Pods laid an egg, but it wasn't karma. I love this group, but they fell short. 2023 Padres were exciting, and I enjoyed the season. Of course, the end sucked, but we didn't get the prize. One of the funnest Padre teams in my lifetime, nonetheless.
Hey, you were down at Gallagher Square drinking beer. I saw you there. How cool was that experience for the fans? I mean, it became a destination point to go enjoy. And so am I disappointed? I thought this thing was built, that I thought it was a potential World Series team. And I could have never, ever imagined, if you had told me in mid-September, these guys are going to go 24 straight innings in the playoffs and never score a run, I would have sent you for psychiatric evaluation. Yeah. And they did. So credit to the Dodgers and their analytics guys who created the concept of matchups when they went to that 8-man bullpen day. I never thought that would work, and it did. So credit to the Dodgers, and you're correct. Out of Gallagher Square, it was a fun season. And now we'll just see what this offseason, I'll tell you, December 1st, when the winter baseball meetings start, and then you add into the equation the decisions the Padres have to make about this payroll and this budget and who stays versus who goes. We're going to have a lot of baseball topics, to talk about in the Hot Stove League.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a lot. Actually, there's a comment here. I want to see if we could sneak this in. Someone did some analysis for us. This is from TN. He says Fangraphs have the Padres projected payroll at $241 million. That's aligned with what you were saying. They need a second baseman or a shortstop, catcher, left field, relief pitching, and starting pitching, because Kim, Higgy, Profar, Scott, Perez, Solano, Peralta, all free agents. I don't know how they can make that work.
Well, I don't know how they're going to get marquee guys to come in here if there's a lid on the payroll. Now, can you make a trade with the hope that I'm going to gamble on somebody coming off an injury and he's going to bounce back? Yeah. And Preller has done some of that. Is there somebody that they cite out there that shows up and suddenly becomes a real trustworthy guy? Yeah, that could probably happen. Maybe you flip Morion, you extend him and actually make him the starter, but he's got such an injury history that maybe they just feel they have to keep him as a one-inning setup guy. They can't trust him to be an every fifth-day guy in the rotation. Now, you grow Waldron. Maybe Waldron learns from the bumpy road the second half of the season. Maybe he becomes a starter. You still got Vasquez. I don't know if Brito will amount to anything. He's got the forearm injury. So there's ways to get guys in here, but I don't know if there's going to be star guys here. And you don't need a shortstop. Unfortunately, you're committed to the massive contract for Bogaerts. You got a second baseman in Cronenworth, unless you're going to make him the first baseman. Profar. That was a unique 1 year. Might be a career year for him. Maybe you bring him back, but I don't know that I'm paying him $10 million. So there's a lot of moving parts to this whole thing financially, in addition to aesthetically. Who are they? Are they going to have that kind of season again? We don't know.
Is Cronenworth a long-term piece here? I mean, because he's not hitting.
7 years.
Yeah, and he had some moments, and you get excited for the guy, and then he goes back to being sort of mediocre.
But plays really good defense, and he does spray hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had a bounce back year this year compared to the disaster that was a year ago, and he plays all the time. All those guys play all the time. So I don't think he's tradable. I mean, not at $10 million a year for the next 6 years or 7 years, whatever the number is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be fun. Hot Stove League's that's going to be worth paying attention to on this podcast. Okay, let's do one more.
One more social media. Here's a pretty fun one here. And this is from GJL Creative Studios. They didn't have any bad karma coming to them. Profar was gracious to the fans, giving the guy a ball. The catch was harmless humor. What did they do wrong? Roberts admitted he made the sinister sling BS up. Ken Rosenthal was complicit and built it into something it wasn't. The guy is a hack and a little twerp, and his kind of obvious bias shouldn't be part of the postseason.
Let's take it to mean he didn't like what Rosenthal wrote. everybody's entitled to an opinion. Let's just be true here. Profar egged Dodger fans on after he made that unbelievable play. Tatis did the exact same thing. I can understand the response. If it had been the other guy who did that, you'd probably be pretty peeved too. It's the deportment thing. Do you accept the way they acted after they made the greatest play of their careers? That's baseball. That's sports. That's the emotion of it all. But now I think it's safe to say, Gil, we do have a rivalry here.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not some imagined thing, big brother, little brother. We got a rivalry here.
Yeah, even one of my buddies is a Dodger fan. He even admits that now. He says it is a rivalry, even though they won. But you're seeing this across all sports. A lot more of this, kind of excessive celebration, to maybe put a politically correct term on it, where people are dancing and showboating. But you've got to believe that the media loves that, and most likely that's making more eyeballs, and so the league is making more money, so they must like it. It kind of makes you wonder if this is all coordinated.
No, it's just reactionary. But you got to cover it, and you will talk about it.
But I think the teams must have a message to the players that encourages them to celebrate, because you notice how they have a celebration in the clubhouse when you clinch a wild card, or you have a celebration on the field every time there's a walk-off, and I get the camaraderie, but sometimes it feels a little orchestrated.
Staged.
Yes. Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of encouragement to have some of this showboating, if you want to call it that, because this isn't the conservative baseball of the 1950s.
No, but 1950s, that was a long time ago, pal.
Yeah.
That's back when gas was 23 cents a gallon too. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this extended Thursday podcast going towards the great sports weekend. Our podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you. And I will remind you again, please check my website. I think if you check it every morning at breakfast with the first cup of coffee or Red Bull, whatever you drink, you will enjoy the wide volume of stuff that I write on the website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. Join our insiders group. Want you to share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That way you'll get alerts every time we put something up there. Also want you to follow me on Twitter. We're trying to push this thing to 10,000 followers. Just use my handle at Hacksaw1090 and hit the follow button. John, what a great weekend we had. We got some playoff games in baseball, must-see TV in the NFL, big college football game. We'll be back here on Monday to recap all of it.
What's going on with the Aztecs? Are they playing this weekend?
Bye week.
Washington
State next week, and then they start playing real people.
Here we go.
Have yourself a great sports weekend.
Same to you.
And thank you for joining us. Always great to have you on Mondays and Thursdays on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.